Oppenheimer, a film about Oppenheimer and his early life. It's kind of biographical, and then takes it through his early life all the way up to the point where he starts building the first atomic bomb and getting into all that during World War II, and then sort of after that, the politics, the fallout of dropping the bomb, and the politics of the time, the sort of the McCarthy era stuff, and trying to weed out communists and whatnot, and just his personal life and kind of what's going on in the country at the time. The sound is great, the visuals are great, this film gave me a panic attack. Hi! Hello! And welcome back to the Film Custodian Show. I am your host, the Film Custodian, and I am back in the garage, as you can see! I got my orange light on because we're talking about Oppenheimer. A couple things I think of when I talk about Oppenheimer is Cillian Murphy is great. That was already gonna be that was already kind of, you knew this going in. Cillian Murphy, obviously from Peaky Blinders, he's fantastic, and actually has been part of Nolan's wonderful films since the beginning. You go back, he was the Scarecrow in Batman Begins, and then had cameos in The Dark Knight, Dark Knight Rises. He was one of the main characters for Inception. He's actually the one that they were inceptioning. If you haven't seen Inception, it's where you go into dreams and then you go into those other dreams. I don't have time to explain Inception. Go watch all of Christopher Nolan's movies. And yeah, I know that a lot of people, some people hate Christopher Nolan, and because it's just his movies always have some kind of gimmick or something or other. Like, a lot of people weren't big fans of Tenet. I like Tenet a lot, but yeah, it's not his best film. Christopher Nolan, he's always got something going, which really comes down to, editing, really. It's like a merriment between editing and music. But we'll get back to that. So I went and saw this film last weekend when it came out on, I think it was a Friday, and it's blowing up in terms of just its overall expectations. And a lot of this, I think, was due to the Barbenheimer effect, right? The Barbenheimer effect, because Barbie was coming out at the exact same time, the exact same day as Oppenheimer, and so the internet kind of blew it up. Oppenheimer had a lot of, they were smart with their marketing too. They did a lot of marketing on TikTok, and then of course, so that really spread to the internet, and then of course Barbie had excellent marketing as well. They marketed this thing as like a family, maybe kind of like a family-friendly film, but more like, I kind of always had the idea that it wasn't really for kids, but it was sort of described as everyone can go watch it. This is going to be something fun, like a raunchy comedy kind of thing, whatever. And then from everything that I'm hearing, I haven't seen Barbie, but everything that I hear about it is basically just that it's sexist, it's misandry, they're anti-family, anti-man, it's horrible, and yeah, it does sound like a horror show. So I really don't want to see Barbie, I don't care. If you guys want me to see it, I'll go see it and do a review on it. Maybe it's a wonderful movie and I'm just misinformed by all these different people. I don't know. But I think if, talking about Barbie really quick, I can kind of sum it up, is that I think there's been such a lack of just chick flicks in general, right? Because what they've done is they've taken all the boy properties, the superheroes, Star Wars and whatnot, and turned those into girl properties, or tried to, where it's basically it's a male character with tits, right? That's basically what it is. That's what Phoebe Waller-Bridge is in Indiana Jones, because they're not writing feminine characters, they're just writing a character that's a guy and, wearing a woman's suit, basically. It's a guy with boobs. That's basically what it is. So this was just an all-out, it's sparkly and shiny, and, there's beautiful men, there's beautiful women, there's beautiful costumes, beautiful sets, everything is pink and happy. Everyone, the girls are, getting their hair done, buying new dresses, everyone's in pink, they're going out, they're going to have a fun time. So they're willing to overlook all the flaws that Barbie supposedly has, right? Because there's a lot of reviewers out there that I trust, and they're saying it's terrible, it's crap, you shouldn't, that it's the most terrible thing. And yeah, look, I absolutely believe it's a terrible thing, and so, and it's, but the thing is with that movie is that everybody can say that, because again, you go back to the marketing. Like I was saying earlier, the marketing was very much like, this is a fun, raunchy comedy. Everybody can go and kind of see it and check it out. And, other people thought it was even safe for kids and whatnot. Everybody in the end was tricked by the marketing is the point. It was brilliant marketing that kept all the politics stuff out of it, all the wokeness out of it. So when they finally go and watch the movie, they're like, what the hell is this? I was fooled, right? And so that's really why there's a big controversy, whatever, going on about it. Whatever. It's on the road to make $1 billion. Maybe I'll go see it and do a review on it. I mean, there's so many people reviewing it now. I mean, whatever. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, according to legend, so you have Christopher Nolan releases Tenet during the pandemic, right? And that was in 2021. Warner Brothers was like, hey, for this year, we're going to release all of our movies in the theater, and then like 2 weeks later, or it was either simultaneously or 2 weeks later, on HBO Max at the same time. So that immediately took away from the box office, it immediately took Tenet out of the theaters, and Christopher Nolan was pissed, which I would be too. He makes films for the cinematic experience, and so instead of going back to Warner Brothers, he took Oppenheimer to Universal, or he was shopping it around, and Universal finally took it. And with a bunch of demands, like this is going to be in the theater for, I guess, 100 days is what I was hearing. Universal can't release any films until it's done, and it's going to be in IMAX theaters for a certain amount of time. Which also, I did not see this film in IMAX. There's like hardly any around where I am. I got to go way out to get to one. I plan on seeing Oppenheimer in IMAX, and I'll do a review then too. I'll do another review about how the IMAX experience is, because that's how you're supposed to see this movie. Apparently, because again, Christopher Nolan loves gimmicks, and he just loves film and loves doing different things. So anyway, this film came out at the same time as Barbie, and then you get the Barbenheimer effect, which I think, in a twist of fate, actually did well. It actually helped both films, because now people are going and seeing the film like a double feature. They're watching Oppenheimer and then Barbie, or vice versa. And so it really did help both films, I think. And the reason that's a twist of fate is because, according to legend anyway, that was Warner Brothers' revenge. Warner Brothers was like, we'll release Barbie the same time that Christopher Nolan releases Oppenheimer, and he'll lose a lot of money. But in a twist of fate, it actually helped both films, and both films are doing it very, very well. So, Barbenheimer. So, like I was saying earlier, it's the marriage between music that is just relentless. That's probably a lot of what you've already heard, is that, Oppenheimer's music, like most of Nolan's films, is just, just pounding the entire time, keeping the action going. And then there's a lot of cutting. There's Oppenheimer's point of view, which is in color, and then there's the other guy played by Robert Downey Jr. He's kind of the protagonist, which isn't really a spoiler. And from everything from that point of view, his point of view is in black and white. So you have all these different cutting between different timelines, and the merriment to music and all that, and just the complete marriage between music and image is what makes all of his films just flow. It's great. I mean, you even go back to like Dunkirk, Interstellar, the Batman movies that he's done. I mean, that's always it. It's always incredible soundtrack, excellent editing. I guess people have had trouble with audio. Like in Tenet, they couldn't understand what anyone was saying. I saw it at home. I didn't see that movie in the theater, so I didn't have a problem with it. But yeah, I mean, I didn't have a problem with this. The sound was great. Also, so Nolan does something a little bit different in this film. He's kind of like I said, in the point of view of Oppenheimer the entire time. So you're also kind of in his head, or at least they tried to visually show that a little bit, where you're showing just like different like on a molecule type of level, or sort of like what's going on in his mind with different colors and different things exploding and all this kind of stuff. So they really tried to get into his head, so the film is really from his point of view and his sort of experience through it. There's not a lot of actually like building the bomb in terms of like just specifics, like laying out blueprints and like here's how we're going to build the bomb and this and that. But there are examples, like they have a jar of marbles that they're putting in, like it's how much power are you going to put into, like it's visual representation of how much power you're putting into the bomb and different things. And all this technical stuff, so there is some of that. Like it's not, but I mean it's more about the experience. This film is an experience. And I can't pinpoint any particular scene that was my favorite or wasn't that great. The whole film has to be experienced, and the whole film is about, again, this one guy's journey to get this thing made, and it's complicated because it's about his obsession, with science and his curiosity and genius. And then you deal with the morals and the ethics of this whole thing. Should we drop this bomb? Should we not drop the bomb? The military wants to make it a weapon, blah, blah, blah. He's kind of recruited in. Then you have the politics of the time in the 30s, 40s, Pretty much everybody knew a communist back then, right? And then you have the McCarthy era, which, everyone's getting blacklisted and whatnot because they knew eventually after World War II that the Russians are going to kind of become the next enemy. And that's kind of, precursors going into the Cold War. So you have all the politics of that. The U.S. government trying to weed out communists and whatnot because they're trying to protect the nation, right, from the next enemy. And so you have all of these things going on. Emily Blunt does an excellent job as Oppenheimer's wife. It's like Emily Blunt, like you've never seen her before. She's kind of nuts. And then she's kind of on his side later on, like this kind of switching back and forth kind of character. And that was really interesting to see. Let's see, what's her name? Florence Pugh, I believe is her name. She's sort of, she's in the Christopher Nolan's first sex scenes that he's ever done with Cillian Murphy. And those weren't sex scenes for the sake of sex, for the sake of, being exploitive, like Game of Thrones, where that's part of it. Game of Thrones is all about, that's part of it, the package. The violence, the sex, the graphic nudity, all that, that's all part of Game of Thrones, whereas this was just like, well, no, this was something on a different level. This is more about showing the vulnerability between the two characters, the closeness of the two characters, that he's able to sort of communicate with her on a different level that he really can't with, say his wife and whatnot. And so it's sort of like this one scene, they're both just sitting in chairs naked, and it's like a visual representation of vulnerability, and we feel comfortable with each other. And then later on, there's sort of a, when he's being questioned, one of the many scenes where he's being questioned and interrogated, basically, asked all these questions, did you, have an affair? And, his wife is sitting right there, and they kind of show, in his mind's eye, they show him, he's suddenly naked, like a nightmare, a dream, when you wake up, you have a nightmare, and you're wandering around in your underwear or naked or whatever, so he's naked right there. Florence Pugh, her character's on top of him, and they just start having sex right there, and it's just like he's kind of looking over and seeing his wife. And that was like that scene really, really hit hard because that was sort of, again, showing the vulnerability of the whole thing. So it pays off. Everything is built up and paid off. It's well written. It's well directed. It's a great experience. Some people have problems with this film. I mean, and I can't say, like, yeah, I get it. You seem you either really, you kind of get what Christopher Nolan is doing, or you just don't get it and you don't like it, you don't care. Understandable. I get it. A lot of people didn't like Dunkirk. Some people are like, Dunkirk's a masterpiece. And other people are like, well, I wanted a war movie. So yeah, I mean, it seems like you either love them or you hate them. There really isn't any kind of, I guess the only in between would be like the Dark Knight films, because everybody loves those movies. Maybe some people don't. So yeah, this film did give me a panic attack. Kind of very briefly. Okay, so there's this scene, and people have even said this before. It's like the frenetic editing, the lights and all this stuff, and just the overwhelming kind of just I want to say paranoia, the overwhelming paranoia and kind of fear that you get. And when you leave the film too, because sort of the end shots are looking out, Oppenheimer's looking up at like all the different nuclear weapons that they have just sort of set up ready to go, because this is going into the paranoid times of the 50s and 60s, into the Cold War, when, it's like everyone's got a bomb, and, we're still dealing with a lot of that today. And so you're left with sort of like, man, we're just, it's paranoia and fear, and it doesn't really leave you with too much hope for humanity, but it's a ponderous film, right? It's a ponderous film. So there is a scene where just after they did the bomb, they launched the bomb, and he's kind of looking around at, he's in the, you know, all the workers and everyone that was in this town working on the bomb, and then he's sort of seeing in his head the bomb explode, and he's kind of looking over and you see people, you know, in his mind, like people's faces starting to rip off. He's kind of on the ground, he kind of steps on just a charred body that kind of disintegrates in front of him. And that time I was just like, oh yeah, I'm getting like a panic attack here. Which is just it's not a fun thing, but you know, I got over it. It wasn't too bad. A lot of people deal with panic attacks. So yeah, anyway, like, credit to the film, I guess. I highly recommend this film. This film is an easy 9 out of 10. I think it's fantastic. It's a really great experience. Again, it's an experience. It's not, you know, it's not anything like, I mean, it's nothing like you've seen before. Christopher Nolan manages to keep things fresh and interesting. Technically, it's amazing. Technically, it should win all the awards for all the technicalities and whatnot. So yeah, go watch this movie instead of Barbie. Go watch this movie instead of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. That movie was so basic and middle of the road. Go watch this movie. Yeah, it's 3 hours long. If I have anything really negative to say about this film, it is that it's a little bit too long. It's a little bit too long. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I got many other videos, many other reviews. So yeah, and have a good day. See ya.